Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
There are 54 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan. 2 of those are in the zone that includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 650 cases are considered active, 27 of those in our region. 23 people are in hospital, 5 people are in intensive care, 23 more people have recovered. The city is looking to sell the downtown Heritage Building. Next week, there will be a 2-day open house for potential buyers. Jace Mackey spoke with Mayor Albers to find out more on the future of the iconic building.
The City of Lloydminster announced they're going to be holding a 2-day open house for the Heritage Building in the coming weeks. Joining me to talk about this is Mayor Gerald Albers. Before we get to our main topic today, thanks for joining me, Mayor Albers, and congratulations on your re-election.
Well, thank you. It's very much appreciated. I appreciate the residents of Lloydminster for their support, and looking forward to 4 more years here as the mayor.
Now, back in March, the city decided to put the Heritage Building up for sale. Can you just talk to me about the process that went into that decision?
So a report came forward from administration to council regarding several buildings and their status and state in the city. Council felt that the Heritage Building, or known as the Clock Tower, is very important to our community, but at the same time, it did not meet the needs of the city directly. So was it administrative? Was it for other purposes? So after a great deal of debate and discussion, it was discussed and approved that the building would be put up for sale with a heritage status. So I think that's very important for people to understand that the building as it exists today will not change on the outside. The information I've received is the facade, the outside will not change, and that's part of the heritage status. What goes on in the inside is certainly up for discussion, and that's where today's discussion leads to us. But really, we felt that we didn't have the need for that building in the city's repertoire to have for us, but someone could make great use out of it. And that's where I think that's what's led to today.
So the open house is going to be taking place November 4th and November 5th. Can you just talk to me a little bit about how the open house is going to work and who would be a great candidate for that?
Well, I think it's an in-person opportunity. If people want to take the in-person opportunity to go through the basement, the first main floor and the second floor, and if they want to inspect the bell tower and things like that, they can. There will be guidelines followed, of course, in place due to the pandemic that we're experiencing. There are video tours available if someone isn't able to get to our city today or tomorrow while the building is open for that. So is there an ideal candidate? I don't think there's an ideal candidate. It is up for public sale. It will be tendered, in essence, I believe, is where they'll end up leading to from that perspective. There's so many different possibilities. I think this is what today and tomorrow are about, so people can envision what they actually walk through. There's renderings that are also going to be available so people can see some different thoughts that have already been explored, some of the uses that have been there today, and what it could potentially look like tomorrow. And I think that's the important part. There's an investment to be made in our community. It's one that the city, back to that meeting in March, did not feel it was in the best interest of the public to make the investment. But from a private individual or a consortium group, here's the opportunity to make an investment in downtown Lloydminster. We've got information about the DARP so they understand where the city is planning on moving downtown. It's going to be very friendly from the perspective of walking and the mobility factor. So I think that's important for people to know. Having someone live downtown is a very important part of our community, as well as doing business and other amenities. So here's an opportunity for, the sky is wide open on this one, and we'll see where it takes us from that perspective.
You touched on the downtown area redevelopment plan a bit, so I just wanted to ask a little more about how is that Heritage Building, the Clock Tower Building, going to fit into the whole picture of the downtown area redevelopment plan?
I think it's almost a cornerstone. It is on the corner. It has a great deal of history. The history of Lloydminster is very interesting. That building was destroyed in the Great Fire in the late 20s, rebuilt, and today continues to hold the anchor spot on the main drive, as it's referred to, or the main street of Lloydminster. So I think that it has historical value that can be built on in a business perspective. If you want to bring the modern to the old, if you wanted to look at those terms, there's many different perspectives of a very modern facility in a building that has deep and steeped history in our community. And I've had members of the community very concerned that you're not going going to knock the clock tower down? No, we're not. It is protected by the heritage status that it has. But like I say, it wasn't in the city's best interest to pursue the development. But we see private developers. I think that we've had a lot of inquiries already, and that's terrific. And I hope there's even more inquiries, because I think that brings people's creativity to the forefront.
And looking a little further down the road, when it comes time for someone to actually purchase the building, does that decision have to go before council? Do they have to approve it?
The sale would come likely before City Council once an offer has been conditionally accepted, subject to the approval of City Council. So yes, it will come out to the public. It may just be, depending on who buys it or offers to purchase it, it may not show a single name, it could show multiple names, or it could simply be a numbered company that decides that they're going to make an investment in our community.
All right, well, thanks for taking some time to talk with me about this historic building, Mayor Gerald Albers.
Thank you very much.
It is time now for This Week in Retrospect. Here's Blake Nath.
This week in retrospect, we take a look at the 1995 Saskatchewan Petroleum Week.
It's difficult to go anywhere in the Midwest without spotting evidence of the petroleum industry. And this week, anyone driving downtown in Lloydminster can spot the banner hung to recognize that booming business.
The Saskatchewan Petroleum Awareness Week is an effort of the producers and the other parts of our industry to increase public understanding and awareness of our industry in Saskatchewan. In 1995, what we're trying to focus on is the impact that our industry has on the economy of Saskatchewan, which is significant. We probably spend, in 1994, there was close to $3 billion directed into the Saskatchewan economy from the oil companies and the service companies. As well, around $535 million in 1994 was sent to the government in terms of direct royalties. That's enough to pay for the Departments of Agriculture, Justice, and Economic Development, so that's a huge.
And we have the exciting results from the 2000 municipal election in Lloydminster.
As the numbers came into election headquarters last night, City Council candidates waited patiently for the results. 4 new members were elected to council. Newly elected Councillor Alan Kayford says he's ready to get to work.
I don't really have an agenda per se. It's tough to have. We need to meet with the old council and find out what's on the plate and deal with some old issues, and then we'll see what we can do with some new stuff.
This is Paul Richet's first time running in a civic election. He feels the new additions to council will be beneficial.
We certainly won't have any preconceived notions as to how things are done, and I think we'll give a fresh look at that and not be focused on how it was.
As a new member, Doug Wilson knows there'll be a lot to learn before getting down to city business.
Initial protocol and knowledge, trying to get caught up, I think is the most from where those before us have got us to this point. I think there's a few of us that have to get up to speed and then go from there.
Obviously, the new people have a steep learning curve to begin with, and hopefully we'll get on with the business of conducting city business.
And that's all for this week in retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Welcome back. Our Shelby Clark chatted with Lloydminster Fountain Tire for any safety tips regarding winter tires for drivers with the season coming up.
I'm speaking with Mitchell Jardine with Fountain Tire. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty great. We're definitely moving into the winter season here. Has Fountain Tire been getting lots of residents coming in for winter tires and such?
Right before our first snowfall, it was definitely picking up, but the first little scatter of snow probably quadrupled our phone calls.
And what kind of safety tips would you share with residents concerning their tires for the season coming up?
Tread depth is always the biggest one. People will always kind of try to push their tires to the bitter end, unfortunately. And with snow coming, the 30 seconds left in your tires will make all the difference in your traction.
And when's the latest you tell people to get winter tires that haven't switched over yet?
Usually we go by the temperature. We tell people that, anything below about -4, start looking at it. You can put your tires on about that temperature, your winter ones, and it won't affect them too much.
And has COVID-19 affected anything with Fountain Tire recently?
It's affected our showroom, seating capacity for sure. A lot more just vehicles being dropped off, which has definitely helped us out with getting things in quicker and then back out that much quicker as well.
And are all-season tires still a good choice for drivers? I know I've had many people wonder if all-season is still good to use for the winter season instead of winter tires. What would you suggest?
All seasons are still really, the technology's always been there and it's always going to be there. Every year, every company makes some changes. This year, Goodyear has made some really good improvements with some of their all seasons. We still have a lot of people that are stuck on running winter tires in winter and summer tires in summer, but the all season market is still really active.
And has this year been a bit different with support from residents so far since the pandemic than previous years?
Quite a bit. Like I said before, the people dropping their vehicles off now compared to any other year is by far more, and it's really helped us out with being able to stretch our hours, getting more done in a day. It's definitely helped.
Now, for people traveling within Lloydminster or back and forth to and from Lloydminster, what would you suggest when they have some issues with their tires out on the road?
Traveling's a tough one. Lucky enough, there's tire shops all along pretty every major highway, but just doing your due diligence, making sure that that your pressures are good, that your spare has air in the back of it, that you know how to change your tire on the side of the road before you need to. Most people have no idea how to change their own tire in their own car or where any of it is actually in.
And is there anything else you want to add for residents to know about concerning tires just for winter coming up here?
Making sure your air pressures are proper. You come in any time and we'll check your air pressures. With new vehicles, they've all got the pressure sensors, lights in it, and people get quite confused with why the lights come on, and it's usually something small. Air pressures are the biggest thing we worry about. Your vehicle wants a certain air pressure, and we want to make sure we keep you in that line.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mitchell.
No problem. Anytime.
Sunday night, the LA Dodgers took the World Series lead, leading 3-2 with a possible champion emerging this week. Evan Kenny and Eric Bay break down the series and look at what could be in the future.
Joining me today to discuss all about the World Series in the MLB is Eric Bay. Eric, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, tons of excitement here, especially over the last couple of games.
Yeah, Game 4 is what first comes to my mind. But before we jump into that, Eric, let's just go through the series. The Dodgers are leading 3-2 with a chance to win on Tuesday. I guess, Eric, first of all, just break down the series for me, what you've seen from the Dodgers to put them ahead in the series.
Yeah, well, I think it's really just been what they've done throughout the entire postseason, and that's get hits when you need to, especially with 2 outs. They've been able to drive in those runs. They've played a little bit of small ball with those base stealing from Mookie Betts, and also some great defensive play in the outfield we've seen from a guy like Cody Bellinger. So really, they've just been playing baseball the right way, the way you need to play to be up. And from the Rays' perspective, I think they're in a better position now than they were going into Game 4, because when they were down 2-1 there, they weren't getting those hits, the same thing the Dodgers were doing. So now they're starting to get a few more hits, string those together, and you've seen it on the base paths here, especially those last couple of games.
Yeah, you mentioned just getting hits if you are the Rays. And Eric, we talked about it a little bit last week before this weekend where we did see Game 4 and Game 5. And the Rays really just weren't being able to produce runs in the game that they did win. That was Game 2. They only won 6-4, where they still gave up 4 runs, but B, they only got 6 runs. And when you're playing against a team like the Dodgers, you really want to get those runs as high as possible. So for them to be able to pull out 8 runs in that Game 4 barn burner over the weekend was huge for them. Now, we've teased it a little bit. Let's just talk about that barn burner. And really, the 9th inning, Rosarena was able to slide in for that. But Eric, just take me through, I guess, the plays beforehand that led up to this.
Well, I mean, it was really just a comedy of errors from the outfielder perspective all the way to the base running. You look at a guy out there in the outfield and he drops the ball, and it's kind of, what are you doing here? Obviously, there's a play to be made at the plate to stop the tying run, and now that can't happen. So Chris Taylor does screw that up. And then from the base running side of things, Rosarena is sent home, which was, interesting. You could have gone either way on that one as the base coach with there being 2 outs. So I like the play, but then he falls. So obviously there's the issue there. And then again, Will Smith misses the relay throw home. The one thing I do kind of want to focus on is Kenley Jansen. He was kind of caught watching. Where's the cover guy? Because if he does cover that, I mean, Rosarena was still far enough away. There is probably still another chance at the plate. So yeah, again, just really a comedy of errors and kind of another meltdown from the Dodgers from what we've seen here. The past couple World Series they have appeared in as a team that's expected to win. It was almost like, are we going down the same path again?
Yeah, Jansen should have been there, and it seemed like Rosarena was really just starting to round third, maybe a little past that at the point that ball was dropped there. But let's just talk about Randy Rosarena just in general and how good he's been these playoffs. I mean, just last night, he started breaking records in that Game 5. Most playoff hits passing Pablo Sandoval from when he was with the San Francisco Giants back in 2014 when they won the World Series. The most single postseason home runs with 9 there, and most single postseason hits for a rookie, passing the great Derek Jeter. He now has 27 hits. I mean, Eric, just how good has he been, really?
Yeah, I mean, he's really been the guy driving the bus offensively for the Rays and a team that really throughout the entire playoffs has struggled to score runs. And even Rosarena there, those first, I would say, 3 games or so for the Rays wasn't really doing much, and neither was the rest of the team. But he's come alive here in those last 2 games, and that's really what they need is him and a few other guys now to continue to step up, because especially for a team like the Rays where they don't produce, like you've mentioned already, like a team like the Dodgers does, you need to step up here, and a guy like Rosarena has to lead the charge.
Now, you talk about not producing. There's a guy on the Dodgers who usually does not produce in the playoffs, but this year it seems like a different story. That's Clayton Kershaw. Do you think he's really turned a new leaf when it comes to his playoff performances?
I mean, he's kind of been up and down. I wouldn't say he's turned a new leaf, but at least he's not, mediocre every night. Even you look at Game 5 here, probably not at his best. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. So not really what you want to see from a guy like Kershaw, especially when you look at Game 1. So I don't really think he's completely turned the page. And I think the only way to do that is if the Dodgers win a World Series. The only thing is at this point, it's not going to be because of his pitching. He's really just another cog in the machine, I would say, at this point.
Kershaw does lead all-time postseason strikeouts now after the game on Sunday with 207. Eric, here quickly, do you think the Dodgers can pull out the win? And if so, who do you give the World Series MVP to?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the Dodgers obviously have everything going for them. They're, I would say, the better overall team. I'm not going to say, though, that it will be easy. And I do think this one will be pushed to 7 games, especially when we're seeing what could probably be a bullpen game from the Dodgers in Game 6. MVP at this point, I think Corey Seager. He's really been hitting very well, and he's really kind of driven the bus there, hitting over 400, I believe. So I just think from those sheer stats alone, it's got to be Corey Seager again.
Eric, I agree with you 100%. With Game 7, as each team has sort of traded wins back and forth. And then as well with Corey Seager, he has been lights out. Eric, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you.
Yeah, looking forward to see how this World Series finishes.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
Thanks a lot, Jasmine. Looking at temperatures right now, still sitting at 1 degree right now as we look out west. Edmonton sitting at 5 degrees right now. 2 we see in Red Deer, Rocky Mountain House as well. And then Whitecourt and Edson are at 1 degree. And then Jasper sits at evened out at 0. 3 right now in Athabasca, as well as in North Battleford. We also see 2 degrees in Cold Lake and Saskatoon. -1 currently right now for Melfort. And then we see 1 degree up in Meadow Lake as well as in Prince Albert. Now, as we look at northern Alberta and Saskatchewan, we see -2s in Uranium City, La Loche, and Buffalo Narrows, -1s in Stony Rapids and in Larange there. And then we see -3s out in Wollaston Lake and in Flin Flon as well. Taking a look at northern Alberta, the warmest spot there on the map here is Grand Prairie, sitting at 5 degrees right now, with 1 in Fort McMurray and Slave Lake, with -2 in High Level and in Fort Chipewyan as well. And then 0 degrees right now out in Peace River, Alberta. Now, as we look at southern Alberta right now, it's a little kind of same results, similar as we see 2 degrees in Medicine Hat and Calgary as well. 1 degree, excuse me, in Lethbridge, and then -1 in Banff, with 3 right now in Coronation. 4 degrees in Kindersley as we look in southern Saskatchewan right now. 0 degrees in Swift Current, with 3 degrees, excuse me, in Moose Jaw. We see minus temperatures there out in Yorkton and Esteban, with -7 there, and then -3 up in Yorkton there, and then 2 degrees in Regina. Now, as we look across the rest of the country, Regina, as I did mention, at 2 degrees. We see sun and some clouds there. A little bit colder in Winnipeg at -3 with some cloud coverage there. 0 in Quebec City, 8 degrees in both Toronto and Halifax with some cloud coverage kind of carrying over from the last couple of days there. 1 degree in St. John. We see cloud coverage in Edmonton, as I did mention earlier on the satellite radar map. There is some possibility of some snow and rain activity in the Edmonton area, and it could make its way into the Lloydminster areas around that 9 o'clock range tonight, as we are expected rain snow mix overnight and showers throughout the day tomorrow, between a 40 and 60% chance. But as we look at Vancouver, 6 degrees right now, with Yellowknife at -5 and Whitehorse right now at 10 degrees. But speaking of tomorrow, we will have one of the warmest days of the week for tomorrow. At 8 degrees is our expected daytime high, as well as we'll see that in Maidstone. We'll see 9 in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Edmonton. Wainwright sitting at 10 degrees, and Provost and Macklin both sitting at 11 degrees. Up north in Bonnyville and Cold Lake and Lac La Biche areas sitting at 7 degrees for tomorrow. Marwayne and St. Paul also sitting at 8 degrees. We'll see 9 in North Battleford for tomorrow, and as well as 8 degrees in St. Walburg and Meadow Lake. So here's a look at the next 7 days here. 2 degrees on Wednesday, possibly some icy conditions on Thursday, with a 54% chance we could see some more precipitation there, as well as on Friday with that high of 5, excuse me. 3 degrees on Saturday with some sun expected, and some sun cloud mix there on Sunday, as well as 5 degrees on Monday with clear skies throughout the day. Of course, we are seeing a little bit warmer morning, excuse me, to compare to what we saw last week here, but it won't be very long before we start to see those double-digit mornings once again. That is a look at your weather for now. We'll have more prime-time local news coming up after the break.
Well, joining us today here on Primetime Local News is local artist here, Jordan Pollard. Jordan, first off, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You know, one of the reasons that we're chatting with you today is you, of course, were named Stingray Music Trending Track Artist for your single Back to Us, which is a big deal because you're the very first person to be named a Stingray Music Trending Track Artist. So tell me how you found out about that honor and how big of a deal this is for you.
Yeah, this is a completely huge big deal. I did not expect this at all. I had just released my first EP this past November, and we'd released that. It had done really well. My first couple singles did quite well for the first releases, but we never expected for it to be going this well at this point in the game. Releasing my third single, and we got a call that Stingray wanted to add it as their first ever trending track, and they put it across all of their stations, which is crazy to me. Like, I've been hearing these interviewers that I've been watching on CMT and hearing on the radio since I was 2 or 3 years old, like ever since I started really becoming invested in music. And it's just crazy to hear these people who I've been looking up to and wanting to talk with and interact with for so long hear my name for the first time, and just to be in the same ranks as artists as Brett Kissel, and to be in the same conversation as artists as Mackenzie Porter and Luke Combs and all of these people is so crazy.
like I mentioned, now that you are a Stingray trending track artist, are you and your music getting more recognition, whether it's on social media as well as you getting that love from, fans and just country music goers alike?
Definitely. I see a lot of comments from family friends from Lloydminster. A whole bunch of people are supporting, and it's awesome that I have that local support from around Lloydminster and the surrounding communities. I've also been getting some messages from people around Canada, which has been super awesome. Some radio recognition, which is the best kind of recognition you can get as an indie artist or just an artist in general. So I'm super, super grateful.
Last time we chatted with you, Jordan, we were named the Saskatchewan Country Music Emerging Artist for 2020. And I know you talked about it a little, but how do you see your trajectory going upwards now that you have that award under your belt as well as this honor here from Stingray?
I don't really know how I can guess what's going to happen because the world's crazy as we were just talking about before, Connor. Everything is so uncertain right now with COVID and everything. So right now I'm just trying to live in the moment, and I'm obviously planning for the future, but also kind of just realizing that this is a thing that doesn't happen very often, and I'm like kind of sitting and soaking in that for now, and we'll hopefully be releasing a new EP coming up soon. We're looking at songs for that and songwriting for that, and we've been talking with my producer about that as well. So hopefully that'll be coming next. We'll see if there's any awards where I'm just gonna stick to what's happening right in the moment, and I'll get back to you hopefully within the next few months. We'll see.
Now, you did mention a second album, and I kind of have to ask is what kind of things are going to be on that album, and can you give a little bit of a tease to what we could see, and if there's any major differences from this one compared to the first one?
Ooh, I think a lot of things have changed for me since I released my last album. I am in my second year of college. I have gone through a lot of things musically as well as just personally. I think just moving to college, making new friendships. I have a boyfriend now. I'm moving into my own place. It's all kind of changing for me. So I think this EP will be more grown up, and I'm hopefully aiming towards having some more of my own material on this rather than some pitched songs, which I still love, and I adore all of my pitched songs, but hopefully I can get some more of my work on this album.
Down the road, I know you mentioned the second album, and in terms of music career wise, how do you see yourself, in a few years down the road?
Hopefully a couple of years from now, I'll have that album out, and I'll still be songwriting and working towards that. I'm hoping to have more live shows and do more bigger band shows, which I haven't really been able to do thus far. Right as I started getting into that and getting into these cabaret gigs and everything, COVID kind of hit and trashed all that up. But we're getting back into that now. I have a few shows. I have one at Cook County, so we'll be doing some band shows, one there, and I'm doing one in Fort Jay, Saskatchewan as well. So it's all super exciting. Hopefully I can get to work with the band more. Maybe, as you said, maybe a couple awards to come. I don't know. We're just kind of living in the moment and planning for bigger and better things, and I'll just keep on working towards that, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, Jordan, I really appreciate your time, and it's always great chatting with you. And I know everyone here in Lloydminster is rooting for you and all your success. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm joined here by Gary Whitgriff, and he is the author of Destination North Pole. Now, you've released the memoir about your journey on bike from South Dakota to North Pole, Alaska. Can you give me some background into this trip?
Yes, it was a trip that I had wanted to make for years, and I'd heard about, I talked to a guy that him and his brothers had biked to Alaska about 10 years ago. And one winter day when they stopped doing the bike tour around our state, South Dakota, one winter day I asked my wife if she wanted to bike to Alaska with me. And long story short, she didn't prefer to go. We ended up putting it off for 6 years after we retired. And I had attempted to take off work in 2011, and my boss thought it was better that I work, and I like the paycheck, so I didn't. And so instead, what we did is we retired, we traveled around to a lot of different countries. And finally I turned 65 and I go, it's time to go or I'm going to get too old.
And now you mentioned that you traveled to different countries and you also did bike journeys there. So did you put any training into specific for this trip?
No, that's the funny thing. People have asked me about that. I never really did any training. I hadn't been on my bike in 8 months. I hiked quite a bit when we were in Mexico that winter. We've been in Australia and in New Zealand and other places where we hiked and biked. But I planned this trip to be, say 60 to 100 kilometers a day at first, just to get used to it. And keep in mind that my goal was to bike to a clean bed and a place to eat every night. So I carried no camping gear.
Oh, wow. So then you also passed through parts of Saskatchewan and Alberta. So what was the experience like in Canada?
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. My trip was actually from Pierre, South Dakota. You would pronounce it Pierre. Pierre, South Dakota through the Dakotas, and I come into Estevan, Saskatchewan. And of course, you're broadcasting from the border between the two provinces. Well, I went from Estevan up to Macklin to Regina. I had planned on staying in Regina, actually, from Weyburn to Regina. And I got there at 10:30 in the morning. So my longest day of this trip was actually from Weyburn to Davidson. And so it's 267 kilometers. That was a run. And then I headed west-northwest through Macklin, Kerrobert, south of Edmonton. I didn't come through Lloydminster, actually. That was a fairly busy route, and I wanted a route that wasn't quite as much truck traffic. And so I went south through Wetaskiwin and then over to Drayton Valley up to, Valley View, something like that, up to Grand Prairie. And then, of course, angled up to Whitehorse, the Yukon, and across to Alaska.
And now what was the experience like, maybe biking compared to different countries in the States when you came to Canada?
It was much more relaxing. Now, you're in media, but keep in mind, I only tried, I brought a portable radio. I was going to listen to weather when I seen a storm coming in North Dakota and the battery was dead. So the next day I charged it and was going to do the same thing. And it was just, I only wore it for about 15 minutes and I took it out and because I wanted to listen to nature. And so once I got into Canada, I never wore headsets. I didn't listen to any music. I just wanted to observe nature. And your country is absolutely amazing, from the prairie provinces on through northern British Columbia into the Yukon. It's amazing.
And what was it like for you when you finally finished your journey?
It's hard to describe because I had planned on this for several years. And when I seen the sign for North Pole, Alaska, which is just below the Arctic Circle, it was kind of relief. It was just a complete release. I started crying when I seen the sign. It was just unbelievable.
And what can readers expect in this memoir?
It was written initially as a bike trip, meaning that the elevation, the distance between towns, this average speed. Keep in mind I was traveling at 1/6 the speed of a vehicle, and so I heard and seen everything. So they'll pick up on some of the dangers. It's not so much about the struggles of biking because I didn't really find it that a struggle. What they'll really find as I finished it while I was in isolation this spring, my wife and I, we went 3 months in a cabin and I finished writing the book and I changed it because of the worldwide situation to basically an armchair adventure. So you can travel through Canada, which is most of my trip, through 4 of your provinces, three provinces and a territory, Yukon, and enjoy the towns along the way, the scenery along the way, the people we met, and amazing people we met along the way. Now, I say we. My wife and I made this trip. I took off Memorial Day and was actually in Western Saskatchewan before she caught up with me. And then I took the heavy bags off my bike, threw them in her vehicle, which allowed me to take off 25, 30 kilos it made me be able to bike a lot easier. And I really enjoyed that, because once I got into the mountains of British Columbia and the Yukon, there's some long mountain passes.
Yes, for sure. And if anyone is looking to get the book, where can they go?
Yeah, Jasmine, thanks for asking. It's obviously on Amazon and all the Barnes and Noble, but it's on Apple Books, ebooks, hardback, paperback. My New York distributor distributes it around the world to libraries. So just online destination North Pole. And the best thing, our grandnephew took a YouTube video and put our clips and our photos into that. And so there's a short YouTube video that you can see a lot of Canada on the way just from my iPhone. It's really neat.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Gary. Jasmine,
I really appreciate you having me on. And again, I so much enjoyed the prairie provinces and the mountains, and the Yukon was vast. That's all I can say. It was beautiful and vast.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.